Okay, I realize I'm gonna piss off a bunch of people with this, but there's no hatred, no malice in what I'm saying. I'm just basically speaking the truth, the uncomfortable truth. I'm gonna try and do it a lot nicer than a brother that's dead and gone that touched on similar topic but was vilified for it because of his delivery. I'm gonna try and be a lot nicer but no less blunt or honest. On the subject of dating, like, look, y'all, it is what it is. The matrix that we are in has men and women. There's a very, very, very valid reason why there are so few love connections, why most people aren't getting married, and of the people that do get married, the marriages aren't lasting. It has a whole lot to do with we have the most unrealistic, ridiculous expectations based on expecting to find the quote-unquote perfect match, that soulmate, that person that checks all our boxes, that we just know the second they walk off in the room that we live for, this perfect individual, that whatever it is that you say you need in a mate, they're gonna have all of that. So if you say you need a man that's 6 foot or taller, that makes $100,000+ a year, and you want him to be a good father, you want him to be a loving husband, these are all things that when you put that out there, those criteria, when you put that criteria out there, each of those criteria dwindles the pool of potential candidates that you have. Let me explain that. Okay, let's just say you're a woman thinking in terms of dating. You're looking for a potential life partner, a husband. Now, let's say out of the 7.5 billion people on the planet, they say that most of them are women, so slightly less men than women. Let's go ahead and go with, out of the 7.5 billion, let's say 3.5 billion of men. Now, out of that 3.5 billion men, you have to turn around and start narrowing down things based on just straight up common sense. Obviously, all 3.5 billion men aren't your potential suitor. There are all types of disqualifiers that go into that. Let's start with regionally. Unless you have the deepest pockets in the world and you can speak every single language, I'm going to assume when you factor in people being in different countries, speaking different languages, that automatically eliminates them from the pool. So let's just stay within your country of origin. Let's say you're in a country like the United States, 300 million people, or whatever they say it's up to now, 330 million. Let's say. All right, 330 million people. Now, obviously, all 330 million people in the United States aren't your potential mate, because of the simple fact, you got people that are already married, you got people that are too young, too old, your children, you got people that are gay. You know what? It's kind of hard to find a husband if the husband is looking to find a husband. So when you factor in all of those things right there, your number dwindles even astronomically more compared to the fact that now that you just add up your region and you include your whole country. Now, mind you, you can't even date everybody in your country because nobody has resources. Everybody doesn't have those type of resources. So you're not really even talking about your whole country. You're talking more about your area. Now, if you got deep enough pockets and you're willing to, you might entertain long distance relationships with somebody that's in other parts of your country. But for the most part, most people that are smart dating, they're dating someone that's in their same geographic area relatively to within what they consider an acceptable distance to travel. For some people, that means, hey, I can deal with you as long as you're not on, more than 45 minutes away. Some people live in cities big enough to where that shit doesn't happen. You live on the wrong side of Houston, somebody living on the other side of Houston, that's a long distance relationship because it might take you 3 hours to get to their ass on a bus if you don't have transportation, and over an hour in a car in the same city. So that right there alone might rule out people in the same geographical relative area. Not everybody, but just saying. Hell, I have a damn Facebook friend that I think is sexy as hell. I think she can cook her ass off. And to be honest with you, hell, one of the biggest reasons why I never actually tried to pull up on her like that is because I recognize that where she lived, to me, that distance would be an issue. I need to see my woman more often. And to be honest with you, when we recognize, you talk about two people that both have responsibilities, that both have their profession that takes up the time that it does, and when they're located to where, they're an hour away, hey, you know what? That's not going to work for everybody. But here's the thing. Back to this whole thing, with each preference dwindles your candidate pool that much more. And you're already starting with a very limited pool based on where you are geographically located and where your finances will allow you to consider. You got deep enough pockets, yes, you can entertain dating people across the country. However, that's not the scenario that most people find themselves in. So, let's just talk about your city, your locale. Now, just to make the math fun, let's say you're in a major metropolitan area, so you do have options. Let's say you're in an area that you are willing to consider anybody in your geographic area. Now, you have 5 million people, let's say, in your major metropolitan area. You're in a big city. So you got way more options than the average individual living in a smaller place. Now, if you have 5 million people, same ratio, about 55-60% of the people there are going to be women, because it's more women than men. So out of that 5 million, let's say 2 million men. All right. Now, obviously, when you factor in things, like I said before, the obvious things, every man isn't going to be single. Every man isn't going to be straight. Every male isn't going to be of acceptable dating age range or whatever. You're talking about, it's 2 million males in that city. So when you start narrowing it down based on, okay, age, within the age range that you consider dating, or legal age, then you start talking about what your preferences are in terms of, hey, do you like dating any man that you particularly find attractive, regardless of race? Most people have social and religious preferences that range from, hey, I want to date another Christian, or hey, you know what, I only want to date, white men, or I only want to date black men, or whatever, because that's what my father was. There's nothing wrong with people's preferences based on race. I don't bash anybody about that. Somebody that wants to date exclusively within their race, I don't see anything wrong with that. I never had a problem with that, until it becomes about, hey, I don't got no daughter married to no Negro. No, she chose a black man. You might not be happy about it, but that's still your kid. Suck it up. And I get why a father might be hurt. Every father wants his daughter to marry a man, that he sees the best of himself, or that has the best of his qualities. However, when you start adding those preferences, that dwindles your potential pool. So you already eliminate a whole bunch of people just based on age, whether or not they're actually single, whether or not they're actually heterosexual and interested in the opposite sex. And then here is the whole biggest kicker. That's the people that are eliminated before you start getting into things like, what do you like? Do you like somebody that makes you laugh? Do you like smart people? You know what I'm saying? What's your physical preferences? Are you willing to date a guy that's, way shorter than you, for example? Because guess what? If height requirement, you just dwindle that pool down even more. If you got somebody that has to look a certain way because, you don't want to date somebody that you're not physically attracted to,
in 2 miles,
you know what
take
physically,
what
physically stimulates you when you start adding those qualities. Well, guess what? With each quality that you add, you dwindle the pool. If you need 6 foot, okay, guess what? There's only so many men that percentage-wise are above 6 feet. If you need him to be, the same race as you, well, guess what? I don't care, remember what race you are. There's only so many people in your city that are percentage, your race. So let's say you're a white woman looking for a white mate between the ages of 30 and 45. Well, guess what? The percentage of motherfuckers in your city that actually fall into that category. Then you take that number right there and you start subtracting things like, is he already married? Does he even want a motherfucking wife? Or is he looking for a husband? And then when you factor in all of those things and you start adding your other personal preferences, like oh, I want a man that does, that moves this way, or I want a man that talks this way. I want a man that thinks this way. These are all preferences that people turn around and have. But each one of those preferences
toward farm to market
lowers your candidate pool that much more. And then when you start adding in qualities like, oh, I want him to be monogamous and faithful to me. Okay. Oh, I want him to be handsome to me. Okay. Oh, I want him to make a certain amount of money. Okay. Those are all great. Nothing wrong with that. But understand, each and every one of those comes with lowering the candidate pool. And then when you get down to that number of potential suitable candidates, here comes the biggest part. Now, you got to meet them, and they got to choose you as well. Did you hear that? After you've done all that mathematical elimination, now you got to hope that the person that meets your standards, that they consider you being someone that meets theirs, and they want to choose you.
Take the next left, then your destination will be on the left.
Just saying, y'all.